Welcome to Make Your Mark podcast, where guests share their experiences, insights, and tactics to help you accelerate your business. So building, scaling, and monetizing your business is made easier. And I will be your host, Suthar. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Make Your Mark podcast. Now, I gotta tell you, we've got an amazing guest for you today. He has a strong personal industry brand in both spheres of sales leadership and cloud computing technologies. And he's used as a social influencer by many brands such as Oracle, SAP, IBM. Who are we? Just to name a few. He has led many sales organizations through consistent growth, including 4 through successful exits. He has won many industry accolades, including British Excellence in Sales and Marketing Awards, UK Sales Director of the Year, and was twice listed in the top 50 keynote sales speaker by top sales people in the world. He is asked to speak, blog, and be a judge on awards. He has judged Women in Sales Awards, Top Sales Awards, UK Cloud Awards, and many others. He is here today to share with us how he is now helping organizations to drive greater sales productivity and result by mirroring the successes he brings to his own organizations. Please welcome Ian Moyse, Chief Revenue Officer at ONEUP Sales. Ian, it is such a pleasure to have you on here today. Welcome.
Hey, thank you for the opportunity and the invite. I appreciate it.
No worries. Now, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics today, and that's sales. And you have got so many golden nuggets to share with people today. But before we get into the whole nitty-gritty of that, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, what you were doing before, and how the transition became from, what you were doing before to owning your own business.
Sure. So I started, long story short, I started in computing by accident because I saw it when I was at school in the dim and distant past when computers weren't as freely available as they are today, weren't as cheap, weren't as commoditized. And I was hooked from the start. So everything initially was about being a programmer. I just wanted to get my hands on these things and make them do stuff. So I trained as a programmer, worked at IBM many years ago. And I moved into sales quite early on because I saw an opportunity. I was quite ambitious, wanted to do well. And the simple thing is I saw, at the time, it's a naive view, I guess, but I saw salespeople who had company cars, phones, mobile phones, which in those days were an extreme luxury because they were extremely expensive and the size of a suitcase, but they got all the perks. And I simply thought, well, I know what I'm talking about. How hard can that be? Wow. I know more than they do about this stuff. And all you got to do is talk to people, surely. So I learned some of the hard edges of that as I got into it. But so I left IBM and joined a smaller firm who was starting up in the UK and was the 5th member of staff in that business. I was the first inside sales, sort of the coordinator of everything. Right. And I had to learn the hard way with it was, I always tell the story, it was here's a price book, pen, pad of paper, a calculator. Right, where's my training? Well, we'll figure it out each day as we go. Let's just get on with it. Right. Okay. So I learned the hard way by getting my hands dirty, by the grunt work, making mistakes, being supported in that you're going to make a load of mistakes because you're not going to have people around to support you. We've just got to get on with this. And we grew that business through to exit. And since then, I've worked in quite a few, as you indicate, quite a few smaller firms where 4 of them we've gone through to exit. So I enjoy that, being hands-on, fixing things, putting processes in place, and helping drive the sales engine, improve the sales engine, turn it into an engine in itself to make it productive, make it repeatable and scalable. And to be honest, it's not rocket science. It's, I think, just people overcomplicate what's involved in selling.
Right. And you know what? A lot of people say, oh, no, they don't want to get into sales. They don't want to do the sales part. Like, oh, sales is a bit sleazy. But at the end of the day, if you don't make sales in your business, you're not going to have a business, right? And so it's vital to get comfortable speaking with people and actually selling your products or services.
And there's nothing wrong. Yeah. And I speak on a number of panels. I'm part of a thing called Sales as a Force for Good at the moment, where quite a few sales leaders have got together, and we've discussed that of sales is a dirty word, right? And it shouldn't be. It is a skilled profession. The problem is it is an all-encompassing title. Sales, well, that covers from every type of sales, the good, the bad, the ugly. And there's good, bad, and ugly in every environment. There's footballers who you would say are dirty players and hack people down and have got that reputation. But you don't say all of them are tarnished with the same brush. So I always say, if you're in sales, be proud of it. Don't varnish it up with some other time. Tell people, what do you do? I tell people today, I've got chief revenue officer. What do I do? I'm in sales.
Right.
I engage with customers. I speak to customers and quantify and qualify whether or not we can bring value to them with what we do. And if we can, it will bring value to us in return.
That's right. Awesome. So you have this ability to drive greater sales engagement, productivity, and revenue results. Tell us a little bit about what that means and how that is all incorporated.
Sure. So, it sounds the phrase that I'm sure many people listening have heard is sales is a numbers game.
Yes.
And people take that too literally, in my opinion. So if I see another so-called sales leader and all they're doing is running metrics on numbers, they're just churning the wheel. So, for example, it'll be, I need a new inside salesperson, SDR. I need a telesalesperson. They need to do 150 calls a day. Right. So previous to where I'm now, I was in the VoIP telephony market, and we would often talk to people, and they would say, what are you looking for from investigating new phone systems? Oh, we need to increase the capability to dial faster and log the details and move. Okay, so tell me. And they'd say, well, I've got reps at the moment. They're able to do about 70 calls a day, and I need them to do 100 calls a day.
Oh, wow.
And I'd stop them and say, well, hang on a second. What is it you're trying to achieve?
Yeah.
I knew where this was going, and it'd be, well, what we found is we used to do 70 calls a day, and that would result in, I'll make the numbers up, 10 connects, and that would result in 5 meaningful conversations, and that would result in 2 leads.
Right.
But now we've worked out it's harder, and we're not getting through to as many people, so we just do more activity. So if we do more activity, because the ratios have gone down, it will get the ratios back where we need it. And what I'd say to them is, so what you want is X number of leads created by each SDR per day. And you've worked out, because of your ratios at every stage, you've got to do more calls. Okay, so what happens when that doesn't work and it's now 140 calls, 200 calls, 400 calls? Where do you draw the line? Right, there are multiple points during that interaction, that process you've described to me, that affect that outcome, and you're only focusing on the one, which is the volume of activity at the top. Have you looked at the quality of the calls you're getting? Have you looked at the data have you looked at all these other things? No, I know, but they don't do it, right? They don't look at who is their ideal customer profile, and is that who they're calling? Oh no, we're just calling volumes of data. So, okay, so if you're calling 150 people a day, and 50 of them don't meet your ideal customer profile, where you've got a value proposition that they're gonna get and it relates to them, they're not the ideal client for you. Those 50 are wasted calls anyway.
Right.
That can be honed out by having better quality data and identify, do you know who your ideal customer profile is today? Who is the persona? Have you identified the data you've given the people to call is the right data? Have you listened to the calls and the quality of why they're getting blocked when they get through? Can you get marginal gains at every stage? In which case, you don't need to because if you just move the calls up and just base it on activity, a couple of things happen. One is you've got an unscalable model, because you just have to you can't do an infinite number of calls per day per rep. And 2, what effect does that have on your individual reps? If they were previously finding 10 conversations a day out of 70, 5 good ones, 2 leads, and now they have to do 100 or 120 to get the same, How do they feel about that? And I've spoken to reps who've been put in that model, and they've described it to me, and I've said, well, what do you think? And they said, well, it's just broken. We shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
We have to call them, and then we have to call them again. And if it's a prospect, we call them 5 times in the first week, then 2 in the second week, and then what? And it's this. It's just tons of activity, and it's
Right.
not creating the results they need. And I've asked the individual, they said, well, it's not working. Okay, and how do you feel? Not good. Not good. It's not the sales they wanted to do. Okay, but I'm being told to do this. Okay. What? So it's not just about activity, right? It's about productivity. It's about how efficiently can you call the most likely customer,
Mm.
which could be honing down the data. Do you know who your most likely customer is today? Is that the data you're calling? And then how are you empowering your salespeople to be better on every call? What's blocking them? What objection are they getting? Oh, no, I'm not interested. Oh, okay, sorry. And they hang up. Okay, well, how do you know they're not interested? Have you empowered and trained your salesperson to get past, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not interested? Because I've had many occasions during my career where the prospective customer who said they weren't interested, 6 months later, I've got another call from a different rep, and they've said, oh, no, I bought something. And they bought a competitor solution.
Wow.
The notes in the CRM say they weren't interested. And then you get a rep saying, but they told me they weren't interested. Okay. But someone else, another sales rep got past that and found that they were interested, but it's easy, right? Because we all fob people off, right? We all get a call. We all look at mobile phones and the number coming up and go, oh, I'll let that go to voicemail. And then if you do answer it, you're automatically in defensive mode of, I'm not interested before I even know what it is.
Yeah, I've done that. I've done that several times.
Yeah. So it's hard, right? It's hard being in sales and do it and that. But what I say to my salespeople is you want it to be hard, because if it was easy, everybody do it. The fact it's hard means if you can hone your sales skills to be able to get the conversation and quantify if you have value to that customer in their perception,
Yeah.
excuse me, and develop the conversation, often you can develop something out of nothing. And I've got in my role today, I've got 2 SDRs who've never really worked in a sales role before, never worked in technology. They haven't got any background in this, but what they have got is tenacity and a willingness to learn. And they are knocking new leads out of the park, talking to people who weren't expecting a phone call, have shown no interest previously, and they're getting through to them and asking, and some they're qualifying out, right? They're not just phoning everyone and everyone says, thank God you called, can I buy some?
Right.
They are generating interest. And when someone says, just out there, yeah, I'm not interested. Well, they take them through a process. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. What is it you're not interested in? Why? Help me understand why you're not interested, so I can make sure I can be better on the next call. Because people often will just say that phrase, right? It's like going into a shop. Can I help you? So no, I'm just browsing.
Yes.
We all just without even thinking defend ourselves.
Yeah.
As soon as you break that down, and some of it's being human, some of it's a bit of rapport, some of it's a bit of, if I phone someone, one of my guys is engaging with a prospective customer at the moment, and they live not far from me, right? Well, if we spot something like that, they're going to drop in. My CRO asked me to call you specifically because he saw what your business does, and we're helping other customers just like yours. And when he saw where you are, he thinks you live 2 or 3 miles from him. You probably bumped into each other. He asked me to call you straight away. That's got a totally different tone. I'm not saying that's perfect, but it's got personality to it. It's got, it's relating to the individual rather than I'm just another sales call, churning the numbers, and whatever fob off you give me, I'm going to back down. Oh, sorry, I called. Sorry. Can I take a minute of your time? Sorry, I'm calling you, but sorry, I'm bothering you. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to find out, can I bring you value? Why should I apologize for calling you?
So what I'm hearing from you, and I want to backtrack a little bit about what you said previously as well, but what I'm hearing is it's really got to do with your approach and your languaging, right? That's what sales is. And it is finding people's pain points and figuring out what solution you can come up with to help them with those pain points that they're having, right? You mentioned also that just backtracking here, that people go to, like the example you were giving me, that all right, we need to do more calls. We're only doing 70, let's do 100, right? And they don't actually look at anything else where they could change. Maybe it is the languaging, where it could be something else. And I wanted to ask you this, Ian. Why
Yeah.
is it people go straight to the numbers, we need to do more calls rather than looking at anything else?
I think it's not. I think it's a couple of things. I think one, potential naivety. Two, there's a lot of things going on in sales, in my opinion, that are
Mhm.
formulaic. That are formulaic, right? So, I have the pleasure, as you described, I judge a lot of sales awards,
Yeah.
and I interview a lot of salespeople for jobs. So I get through that. I get to meet a lot of salespeople from different industries, different experiences, different levels of their career. And I'm by no means perfect. I'm still learning. I'm not baked, but salespeople get into this habit of I'm baked. I know what I'm doing now, and I'm still trying to improve on perfect questioning as a master of that skill. And people, I've got that. I've been doing sales for 10 years. Okay, what have you got? And then they'll demonstrate how they haven't really got it, and they're not that good at questioning, which is a fundamental skill in sales because you're communicating with someone and having a conversation. And I think it's all forms part of what I'm describing. Formulaic, for example, there's lots of sales methodologies out there. And
Yes.
they'd have been taught one of them, right? Whatever one, let's pick BAN, budget, authority, need, timescale. And they'll take it verbatim. And so I go, no, I've mastered this. I can phone someone, I'll get their budget, I'll get that. Look how good I've done. I've got all four. And I say, well, what happens if they say they've got no budget? Oh, well, it's not a good prospect because they haven't got a timescale then either. Okay, and then I'll go to them or one of my that I've trained, and we'll go and sell to them, and then you'll phone them back a year later and find they bought a month after you called them, and you'll say, "But you told me you had no budget." Yeah, they didn't have a budget, but they've got pains and they've got areas where they're looking to make gain in the business, and if they find someone can solve one of them, right? If you've got a pain and it's hurting you and it's taking 3 of your people 10 hours a week to do something, and I can remove it, that as a value. If I can demonstrate that, you'll find a budget because maybe you're about to hire someone. I've got no budget for a project or whatever at the moment because I'm too busy hiring someone over here, right, to solve this problem because we don't have enough time to do this to serve our clients. Well, if I've got a solution for that, that means you don't have to hire someone else, and you don't have to wait 2 months to find them and take the risk of hiring them, and I can fix that. You'll find the budget, but you told me you had no budget. It's so the fundamental of questioning is you have no budget. Well, that's great, but you don't only talk to people when you're spending money and you've got a budget, right? Let's have a chat, and then you explore. We had one recently where I had a 15-minute conversation, no project, nothing. That call with the founder of that business went on for 2 hours because within the 15 minutes they quantified this is actually could solve some problems we've got that we didn't. Oh, they started asking me questions. 2 hours in, we then led to further calls, and it's still ongoing. But that was a 15-minute exploratory call where not sure there's any interest here in anything, and there's no project and there's no budget, and suddenly the CEO is driving his team to get involved all over the place because he saw value.
Right.
So,
And that is key.
Yeah.
That is key, is making sure that you give value and they can see the value in what you're telling them and the solution that you're bringing to them to make sure that they solve whatever their pain points are.
Yeah, or you walk away, right, because you genuinely have a conversation and find right now it's not the right timing, or there isn't value, or they've just bought something that does exactly what you do. That's fine. There's no problem, and that's the way to position it. It's not about convincing and selling something to someone. It's about exploring if there is mutual value now or in the future. So you have a conversation. That's what the conversation's about.
Right. And there's two things that you mentioned that I'd like to go back on. You mentioned a couple of times about questioning, right? And people are probably thinking, well, yeah, of course you ask questions. That's what you do. But it's a certain type of question, the way you ask them when it comes to sales, right? And I'd like you to explain a little bit about what questioning in sales actually means.
Sure. So firstly, it's questioning and listening, right? So you need to listen to what active listening of what you're getting in response. And then from the answers you get, will be you can't plan all your questions. You know, this is something I've seen salespeople do, of which the methodologies, unfortunately, I don't think intend to lead people to, but lead people to this formulaic approach. So budget, authority, need, time scale, great. I ask whatever way I phrase it, I've got the budget, great. Now I'll ask about, hang on a second, if someone says to me, yeah, we've got a budget for this project, it's about $23,000. Okay, £23,000, whatever.
Yeah.
And this is where I test salespeople in awards and all this stuff. Say, okay, let's role play it. So, what are you looking to spend on this? Okay, 23,000, and then they'll move on to another question. I'll stop them and say, well, you've missed it.
That's right.
Because why is it 23,000? It's a really fundamental question. You've answered it. There's another question there. So thank you for sharing that, Kate. Where did the 23,000 number come from? Particularly as it's a nice round number. What prompted it to be that number? Well, it was because that's what the other product we used was, or because we worked out A, B, and C, whatever. Right? Okay, great. And if you find a solution to this problem, but it isn't 23,000, but it absolutely fits what you're trying to do and solves this XYZ, whatever we've been discussing,
right,
is the propensity to find more budget if it needed it. Well, yeah. Have you done that before? Yeah. Okay, great. And how would you do that? How have you done that before? What's happened before when you bought something else and it was more expensive than you first perceived it was, but you actually went ahead? How did that work? How did that work for you? And who was involved? And I'm still on the first question, right?
Right.
You know, and people get hung up on this formulaic thing. Based on what the customer says, listen, and often it will prompt other questions you weren't preparing to ask. I often do this with salespeople where we'll demonstrate to a customer together, and I've been in a room, they're doing the demo, buried in the demo, thinking about what they're going to show next, and I'll stop them and say, well, hang on a second, because I'll see two of the customer representatives in the room have seen something, or a question was asked, quickly answered by the sales rep, and then back into the demo. I'll stop and go, well, hang on a second. It was interesting. You both reacted and looked at each other when we go, what prompted that question?
Yeah.
Because there's a reason you asked it. What prompted? Well, with the other provider we looked at can't do that. Oh, really? Okay. And based on we can do that, what value does that have to you?
Right.
What difference does being able to do X, Y, Z, that feature, function, whatever it is, how would you use that? How beneficial is that to you? And it could be that justifies the whole blooming project for all you know, right? Because they say, oh my God, that's going to save this and do this and that. We didn't think anyone could do that.
Right.
Rather than just go, give an answer, thank you very much. That one didn't, too often salespeople, I think, answer a question based on, I ticked it off. It didn't stumble me. It didn't stop me.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ask them afterwards, they asked about so-and-so. Yep. And we can do it, right? Yep. Why? How much value was that to them? How important is that to them? I don't know. Why? Because you didn't stop and ask a question.
Yes. Well, that's because they weren't listening in the first place.
Yep.
Right.
They were too busy trying to answer the question. When a customer asks a question, there's a reason they're asking it. Don't just worry about answering the question. That's one thing.
Right.
But you have the right to say, that's a great question. Before I give you the answer, what prompted that? Why do you want to know X, Y, Z?
Right. And do you know what that I've noticed, in fact, so if someone's called me to try and sell me something, and it was so obvious that they were reading from a script, right? And had all these questions, and they were just going off the script one by one. And I'm like, oh, well, you could have asked me this, and you could have asked me that, and there was a whole area there that we could have spoken about regards to some of the frustrations of having business there, and they've completely missed it because they were being robotic, right? And then just going off the questions, and so reading off the script doesn't work. It doesn't work because it makes you sound like a robot and not a human, and it makes you sound like you're not interested in them at all, right?
And worse than that, here's a clue. So asking good questions is a byproduct of what it does. It will build rapport with that individual.
Yes.
Right. It's the biggest trick in the book. If you ask someone lots of questions about themselves, right, and their project and stuff around them. If you asked 50 questions and someone else asked 3, and then and there's been psychological studies on this, right? You ask then that individual, who did you like the most? It'll be the one that got them to talking the most and asked questions and showed the most genuine interest, rather than the one that went a few questions. Now let me tell you about us. Let me show you how wonderful we are. And I always remember a client that I met with, a short anecdote, a validation point. And they'd met with 3 much larger vendors that were competing with us where I was at this smaller brand. Came and met with us. We spent, and I said at the beginning, look, I can show you slides and demo, I can show all this whizzy stuff, but to understand and best serve you and understand what's relevant to you, I need to ask questions. Can we do that first and see how far we get? And you can stop me at any point if you want to see stuff. We spent 2 hours going through questions. Right at the end, I always remember the individual turned to me and said, "Do you know what? I'm drained. You guys have absolutely, oh, crikey. However, fantastic. You've asked me questions I don't even know the answers to on my own project. And I tell you this, the other 3 vendors didn't ask half of those questions, didn't show as much interest, and they wanted to show their stuff as fast as they could.
Right.
They didn't challenge me. We didn't even show them our stuff. We won that project. Now, I'm not saying it's because just we did that in the session, but we built more rapport in our first session that the individual was then telling us how he felt about us compared to the others there and then on the spot through their own volunteering that information, because it was genuine, right? They just felt warmer to us because we genuinely cared about the project and were pushing for, and we explained that the reason we're doing this is to understand if we are the right product for you. If we are, boy, do we want to win you and do a great job. But the only way we know that is by asking lots of questions and detailed. And we're going to probe you, and I'm going to challenge you. But you're comfortable with that, right? You set the scene, and there's very few people go, no, don't ask me about my project. I don't want you knowing about it. I don't want you. Just show me your demo. Show me your stuff. Make shiny stuff. Show me all that. Don't talk to me. No one will ever do that, right? If you position it well, they will open the door and respect why you're asking questions. And the fact they don't know the answers, number one, tells me the other vendor hasn't asked that. Because if they did, they just go like this. When they don't know the answer, means no one else has asked them it.
Right.
And you get, I love it when a customer says, my gosh, that was great. That's a great question. Oh my gosh, that's a brilliant question. Shows you're professional. You're demonstrating your professionalism to them as a salesperson. But that's that they don't have disdain for salespeople. What people have is disdain for poor salespeople who make them feel like I just want to flog you something, no matter what. I'm just after my commission check, and you're just another number for me to try and get that from. If you genuinely approach it authentically and professionally with the skills that should be applied, you will build rapport, which will lead to a relationship, even if you don't do business together. I've got many people who I've not done business with that I know I can approach again, or if I bump into them years later, I've had people come up to me and go, "Oh, do you remember that project? Sorry, we didn't do business with you."
Right.
But I've got that equity with them because of the way we engaged.
Right. And Ian, there's another point that you mentioned earlier. You just kind of skimmed through it, but I want a bit more detail on this. You mentioned that sales isn't about convincing. I think a lot of people feel that sales is about convincing, getting that money, getting hold of that, the car details, making that sale. That is the mission. The mission is just to go get that money, right?
Yeah.
Explain to our audience today why it's not about convincing people to get that sale.
Well, an easy one is, and often it comes from other parts of the business, but you'll hear other parts of the business who then have to live with supporting a customer who isn't happy or implementing something where it doesn't really fit. It's a square peg in a round hole, and it affects the impact of the business. What it then affects, particularly in today's subscription economy, where if you think about it, it used to be you'd sell someone something, a physical thing, and they've got it now, and you'd sort of done, and there's no more revenue to come. Now, a great deal of business is done in a subscription manner where you're signing up for something that you keep paying for every year, right? It's a service, whether it be a cloud technology service, that you don't want them to turn it off. If you've turned on Spotify, it's a subscription service, right? If you're not happy with it, you stop buying it, they lose you as a customer. So it's all about customer retention. Well, if you don't do it right at the beginning, your customer retention isn't going to be good, because you're
Right.
going to be, as fast as you're putting people in at the top, you're going to be losing them at the bottom. So
Right.
if you put people in at the top that are right, you're going to have a stronger reputation in the market. You're not going to have bad reviews on whatever review site is out there, etc., because you've sold authentically, and you're going to keep customers for a longer period. So the lifetime customer value is better for your business. So you've got to think about how you incent salespeople, how you incentivize them, not just to get people through the door, but the value is long-term customer value, longevity with that customer. And the customer doesn't want to just be the customer doesn't want to be sold to. That's why people think about it. That's why people now resist at every opportunity. Oh yeah, I'm not interested. Well, guess what? Because there's an assumption that you're going to try and force something on me, and I don't want that. I don't want to have that interactional behavior. When
Yeah.
you interact with a professional salesperson, you realize actually what they're trying to do is put me in a safe place to buy. If it is the right thing for me, they've got my interest at heart. You cannot sell to everyone, is not your ideal customer, right? You cannot sell something to everyone of every type of business, every size, and it's right for them.
No.
We don't all buy the same smartphone, right?
No, that's right.
We don't all have the same PC, the same car, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So it's about selling the value you've got, understanding what the customer's looking to get, and then identifying, can you fulfill that? And do you feel you're truly the best to do it? In which case, yes, part of your job is to prove to that client, that prospective client, that you are a better proposition, you're better to deal with, more trustworthy, your product's better, etc., for giving them that outcome. So there is an element of convincing, but only when it includes putting the customer in a safe place to buy. It isn't convincing them to buy something that isn't fit for what they're going to get the value from, right?
Right, exactly. And you know what, Ian, you've given us so much food for thought here. And kind of using different strategies and different tactics, and that we are there for the customer. It's not just about getting that sale, right? Because even though if you don't get the sale now, it might not be the right time for them. Later on, if you do build that rapport, they'll come back to you and be like, right, what you explained to me before, I'm ready for it now. Let's go. Right. And
Or they'll refer someone else to you. I've had that happen in the past where it has, you know what, respect what you've done there, because you backed away, right? You've said, I don't think we're the right solution. But sometimes a customer will change your mind and convince you, right? Because you'll be genuinely saying, well, you want these 10 things, we can't do 4 of them.
right.
So I don't think we're the right thing for it. I genuinely, because you said you wanted them, and they'll be going, no, the 6 is enough. They'll convince you, in which case, well, that's fair, because they're qualifying themselves as the right profile. You were qualifying them out based on what they told you, and they're changing what they're telling you. But I've also had it where they've respected the fact you've done that, and at later time you've had a reference from them, so they've told someone else to speak to you, because you can trust those guys. And I think from what I learned about them, I think they'll be better. They might fit you, and so told me to speak to you, even though he didn't buy you himself or herself.
Right.
So it's about being professional, and it should be your own personal integrity.
Yes, definitely. Now, Ian, if people want to find out more about you, if you've got, if there's some free ebook or something that you have, where can they go to get hold of you, to talk to you, to find out more about you?
Sure. Well, I have the pleasure to appear on a lot of things like this and contribute to a lot of panels, blogs, webinars. So the easiest place is to find me here if you come to ianmoyse.co.uk, and that will bring you straight to my LinkedIn profile, where I publish and connect and link everything that I do. You can also find me at ianmoyse.cloud, which is Twitter, which I do the same, right? So that's the easiest thing. Follow me on those, and then all the things that I get involved in and all the information I contribute and share will come out via those channels.
Awesome. And guys, all the links that Ian just mentioned will be in the show notes. So if you missed it, they can scroll down. Make sure you do connect with him. Sales is vitally important when it comes to business. If you're looking to grow, to scale, then make sure you do get in a conversation with him, find out what he's doing, learn more from Ian. Ian, thank you so much for coming onto the show. It was such a pleasure. So many golden nuggets. Oh my goodness. Once again, it's been a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Make Your Mark podcast at www.makeyourmarkpodcast.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get this and every other episode that comes out. We have lots of great stuff coming, so make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And thank you in advance for all the reviews and comments. I appreciate it so much, and I look forward to serving you in next week's episode.